What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's Shady here, and today we are going to be, diving into a new segment that I kind of want to introduce in terms of this channel. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to call it yet, but it's looking like it's going to be like throwback something. I don't know. We're going to see. But I basically want to take this segment and make it into an opportunity for me to kind of go back into old TV shows or older shows that are no longer running or canceled, and things that kind of left an impression in terms of the world of entertainment, and also what I guess the discussion is now about it. I kind of want to look back on a lot of the things that we used to watch and kind of comb through it a bit. There are a lot of shows. I realized there were so many shows that I used to watch back in the day, especially when I was a teenager. That seems so long ago now because I'm turning 28 in a little bit, but I have been looking back on a lot of the shows that I used to watch, and I was like, wow, there was so much to talk about. I obviously am going to continue to talk about TV shows and reality TV that I watch currently, but I also want to look back on some of the things that I used to watch as well, because there was some pretty wild stuff on TV back in the day. And the show that I'm going to talk about in this video definitely was no exception. I had just started watching Dance Moms about a month or two ago. It wasn't a show that I had watched when like it was airing or anything years ago. I think this was the Lifetime network that they were on, but I have been seeing so many videos about Dance Moms, how crazy it was and how intense things got throughout the seasons. I think they had maybe 7 or 8 seasons. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's quite a bit, okay? I stopped at season 3, I think. I'm like midway season 3. And I don't know if I could continue watching it up until the very end. There has just been so much that I could talk about and fill this video with, and I'm just like, wow, now I understand what people were talking about, like how crazy this show was. And now we're looking back on it and it's just like, no. So Dance Moms was pretty much kind of like a means to kind of open the door, I guess, in a sense, to show the craziness that goes on behind the scenes when it comes to dancers and dancing competitions. And in Dance Moms in particular, we're kind of following the story of the Abby Lee Dance Studio or Dance Company. I can't remember the full name, but Abby Lee Miller is pretty much the creator and the overseer, in a sense, is how it feels sometimes. Season 1, we kind of get introduced to Abby, the studio, the moms, and we also find out that Abby, she used to dance herself. And also her mom had a studio as well at one point, so it kind of runs in the family, it seems. But the very first thing that I noticed is that Abby is very much so a competitive person, and she is just obsessed. And when I say obsessed, I mean obsessed with winning. Second and third place will not do. It's first place or nothing. If it ain't first place, you suck. And also, if you get first place, you could still do better. You know, like that's the vibe that you get right out the gate. Like episode 1. Even in the very first episode, there's drama with the parents. Honestly, this show is not even about the dancers. I'm saying it's the behind the scenes of dancing and dancing competitions. But no, it's really just about the drama between Abby and these moms. Okay, Abby and these parents. And I'm just like, these conversations get out of hand real fast. But it's literally episode 1. We open up to this mom losing her ever-living mind, shouting at Abby, and I'm trying to figure like what the heck is going on, because it's smack in the middle of the argument, and I'm just like, okay, interesting. Very interesting. I think it literally sets the precedent for what happens literally during the entirety of the show. I haven't watched the rest of the seasons. Like I said, I stopped midway season 3, but even up to that point, discord, literally, like arguments all the time. And I'm just like, oh my God, it escalates. It really does escalate. Coming from a little bit of a dance background myself, the way that Abby would even talk to the students sometimes, forget even the moms. I get why sometimes she would argue with the moms, but a lot of times she would talk to the dancers, which, you know, in the first couple of seasons, we have Maddie, Chloe, Mackenzie, Nia, Paige, Brooke, and then we also had Vivienne in like the first couple of episodes, but we'll get to that in a minute. In the first couple of episodes, at least in season 1, you already kind of get the gist as to how Abby kind of talks to her dancers and how demeaning it could be. And then also she has this pyramid. We're gonna get to the pyramid, child. Oh my god, I was like, what is this? She would do it at the beginning of every rehearsal or dance class. But anyways, she would talk to them in such a demeaning way, and I'm like, wow, how are they supposed to feel encouraged at all? Coming from being a dancer myself for a couple of years, I never did like ballet or anything, but just more so the type of dance that they do, like more contemporary, I guess. My coaches and my dance teachers, they were hard on us because they wanted us to obviously be our best, do our best, look our best on stage, and I totally got that. Obviously, sometimes if you're in a little bit of an emotional state, you could be like caught off guard a little bit and kind of take some things very personal, but they never crossed that line of saying things like, you're not necessary, you're not a necessary component to the team, and you're useless. She literally said, I think it was Brooke, I don't think she said it to Brooke's face, but I guess Brooke didn't show up to a rehearsal or something because she wanted to try out cheerleading. Lord forbid you want to do something else with your life besides dance, you know, like, oh, Abby basically was like, she's useless. And I was like, wow, you basically just said a child is useless. Okay. Besides Abby being a, I think the moms are also kind of strange as well, particularly when it comes to Maddie's mom, because Maddie is kind of like seen as the sensation. She's the star. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting that the very first episode, she has a stomach ache. And instead of her mom saying, okay, you could take a break or we could go home, just skip this rehearsal, come back to the next one, she's just like, you need to suck it up. You need to push through. Like, what? So she has a almost debilitating stomach ache, can't even move or dance properly, and you're telling her she needs to just push through it. Okay.
Go. Stop crying. Stop acting like this.
My stomach hurts.
You never miss dance. Let's go.
Now, even though I do understand, when it comes to the dance world, I get it to a certain extent. Yes, you are going to have to push through some pain. That's understandable. But the fact that this girl isn't even feeling well, and she, I think at one point even said that she was about to throw up, and the mom's just like, I don't care. Like, you know how kind of traumatizing that could be to your child? Like, wow, my mom doesn't even care that I'm feeling super ill. She's just like that obsessed with me dancing? Really? So again, it sets this precedent that not only is Abby crazy, but some of the moms could be a little unhinged as well. Now, I do think the other moms, like Nia's mom and Chloe and all the rest of them, they're a little bit more level-headed, I feel, you know, than Maddie and I forgot her sister's name. Maddie and Mackenzie. Mackenzie is a little younger by a couple years, but they're both in dance. And Abby is now trying to push Mackenzie, the younger sister, to be just like Maddie. And I'm just like, that's not how that really is supposed to work. She's supposed to be herself. So it just seemed like Abby just kept pushing that Maddie's number one and all the rest of these girls suck and they need to be like Maddie. And it's just, again, very damaging, I feel, to a child's psyche, because it's just like, not only does Maddie feel the pressure to constantly be perfect, but now you have these other girls feeling as though they're not worth the attention and they can never be good because they're not Maddie. And again, it's just like, wow. Looking at that now, I can understand why the girls, now that they're all grown up, because this is back in like 2008 or 9, I don't know, but like the 2000s, okay? The end of the 2000s. And you could see that now, looking back on it with these girls that are grown up, they're, you know, like anywhere between 18 and 21, they're looking back on these episodes and they're just like, oof, I do not want to relive this. At the time, you're looking at it and you're just like, oh, this is really entertaining. And I could also get why back in the day it would be super entertaining as well. But now you understand, I think, with a different lens growing up, like, oh, this is very much so damaging to a child, okay? And also, I think it's really interesting looking at that dynamic between Maddie and Chloe, because they were always pitted against each other by Abby because, again, the pyramid comes up at the beginning of, I guess, the week or whatever, before they're about to go into rehearsals for a competition. They would have this pyramid, or where Abby would give her feedback. She would have this pyramid of their pictures, and she would pretty much put Maddie at the top. More than likely, a good 90% of the time, Maddie would be at the top. And she would kind of start from the bottom and make her way up to Maddie. And usually at the bottom, it would be the same people. Now, the only time you would really even get elevated is if you won a competition. Not even if you placed like second or third, if you won, which again leads back into Abby's obsession with winning. It's all about winning. And I find it even crazier watching this documentary of sorts, I guess, like a deep dive. I think the channel is actually called Deep Dive as well, but I'll try to link it in the description for you guys. But they did a little bit of a deep dive about Abby, or Abby Lee Miller, that's her full name. They did a deep dive about Abby, and it was very interesting learning her background. And also when it came to her being a dance teacher, we find out that because of the show and her antics on the show, she actually got her like teacher or dance teacher license, instructor license, I don't know what it's called, but I think she got it revoked at one point. I don't know if they ever gave it back. So it just seemed very interesting just looking at the dynamics between the moms, the dancers, Abby, and you could clearly see that it affected all of the little girls that were on this show throughout, obviously, the entirety of it, from season 1 to the end, like season 8 or 9, however long it went. I totally understand why recently they had a reunion and a lot of the girls were like, yeah, we don't want to do anything with Abby. Yeah. Later on down the line, I heard JoJo Siwa. She was a part of the show as well, and she was actually taking up for Abby. And I find that really interesting because JoJo, she's been found out to be doing some interesting things behind the scenes as well with her little girl group that she was trying to start, but I think is no longer. And she kind of takes the same, I guess, way in which Abby would run things at her studio and would do the same thing with these little girls and traumatize them as well. And I'm just like, wow, just wow. So I just have to ask, like, when it comes to dancing and how important that is to life, I'm trying to figure out why it's seen so serious. I think that it's a nice expression and way to get the girls really moving and out there, and I think it's a nice compliment to something that they could do outside of the house. But I think the way in which they would view it as just something that should be seen as super uber important compared to them actually being taken to school. Literally within the first couple of episodes, some of the moms literally say to Abby, they barely even get time to do homework. Like, school takes the back burner to dance. Dance is number one, or at least they try to see dance as number one compared to just an education, which is wild to me. I was like, y'all really gonna say that on TV? They literally said their kids were falling behind in school because they're so busy trying to get them to go to dance rehearsals and get ready for these competitions. And I'm like, unless these girls are trying to be professional dancers at the end of the day, it's not supposed to be that serious. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're letting your kids fall behind in school? Like, what?
We had our award ceremony.
For what?
School.
Oh, your grades. Okay. I do find myself at times, putting dance before school.
So that's just crazy to me. And the fact that Abby would also, if they just happen to miss a rehearsal or two, or like in terms of them needing time to get their life together in terms of school and catch up, it's a problem. Like, that's just baffling to me. It really is just crazy looking at this show. I don't know if I could finish it, y'all. I really don't. And also Vivi, I forgot to speak about Vivian. Her mom was Kathy. Let me go through the moms real quick. So Melissa is the mother to Maddie and Mackenzie. Then we have Christy, she's Chloe's mom. Kelly is Paige's and Brooke's mom, and then Holly is Nia's mom. I think in terms of the moms, the chillest mom in that show was probably Nia's mom. Holly was so chill. She was like, listen, you did your best. Whenever Nia would have a bad day or whatever. Also, when it came to her not being able to show up, she was so real for that. She was like, listen, I have to work. I can't be like, that's another thing that got me. During the show, Abby wanted the moms to constantly be there, like 24/7, like they had to be there. And then also sometimes she wanted them to make their kids costumes. I'm like, what parent has this type of time or energy to invest in something on that level? Like, if you want them to pay for a costume, then okay, whatever. But the fact that you ask me to sit there and sew and make a costume, like, what do you think is? Especially people that have an actual job. A lot of the moms that were on the show didn't have like jobs where they had to leave the house. They were pretty much stay-at-home moms. So because they had that luxury to do that, they didn't have to be missing a lot of rehearsals like Holly. Because Holly, I think she was the principal of a school or whatever. She ended up taking a little step back, obviously, at one point. But it's like, how do you think these parents, like, you think their lives just revolve around dance? It was really wild to me how obsessed Abby was with dance and winning, and she wanted everybody else, including the parents and the girls that competed, to be just as obsessed with her, and it was just too much. It really was. Just watching it play out, I was like, wow. And then every now and again the girls would forget their dances on stage. They would run off, get emotional, cry, and I think Nia was one of those as well. And I found it really interesting that behind the scenes of one particular competition where Nia had ran off and she was crying, but she went back and did it again, I find it interesting that Abby was like, save the tears or something like that, right? But then literally there was an issue with her star student Maddie. I think this was maybe like a couple of episodes later or maybe the next season over, but Maddie had ended up, I think they were trying to do some type of audition for this prestigious school or whatever. I guess Maddie was feeling the pressure from that, and they were also trying to be there for a competition as well, and Maddie, she just didn't want to dance, and she was having a little bit of a panic attack, low-key. And I'm like, wow, I've never seen kids have panic attacks like that before on that level. Abby was putting way too much pressure on these kids. A lot more also on Maddie because she treated her like the star student that had to be perfect all the dang time. I think for kids, that's just way too much. And the parents also had to constantly remind her, like, you're putting way too much pressure on these kids to be a certain way and always be perfect. But honestly, y'all let me know. This one was kind of like a little bit all over the place because I had some notes in mind that I wanted to bring up, some things that I wanted to discuss, but it wasn't anything super like organized. Hopefully for the next video it's a little bit more so that way. But y'all let me know your thoughts on this show down in the comments, if it's even worth it finishing, because it seems very repetitive also. Like, it's the same thing every episode pretty much. Abby shouting at the girls to get it right. They sort of get it right, they win, but she's mad that they didn't get it all the way right, and then it's just this cycle, and the moms have issues with that and all that stuff. So I don't know if I want to continue watching it. I'm just going to be real. But I completely understand why this just did not age well. And I totally get why the girls don't want to have anything to do with Abby. But yeah. Y'all let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.